Hey everyone, this is a part 2 of my little topic about open and closed doors. In the last one, I shared a story about where I thought I was receiving some open doors, open door information to go ahead and do something. But when I prayed about it, God actually said the exact opposite. And I just shared with how I came to understanding which was the correct information, the stuff that I was hearing or the stuff that I was observing through coincidence. So that was part 1. This is part 2, some of the things that I learned from that experience. So the first thing that I learned was it is great to have somebody to pray with who has a history with God and who has fruit to their life of journeying with the voice of God, where you've kind of seen them make mistakes in hearing the voice of God, admitting to those and repenting and repairing any messes and trying again and getting it right. So you want somebody that's got a good history with that, not just a boisterous person who there's people out there who just insist that they hear from God, but they may not necessarily have the fruit of it in their life. So look for those people. Look for those people who hear from God, and look for people who care more about God's opinion than yours, that will be happy to say to you something that you might not want to hear in a loving way, because their fear of the Lord is much greater than their fear of man. So look for that person. If you go back and listen to the last story I share of my husband being that person for me. In my story, God led me away from something He told me that I wasn't ready for. And I want to say that sometimes God does lead us away from things for our own protection. A good example of this is, I think it's Exodus 13. I could be incorrect, but it was straight after the Israelites left Egypt and were on their way to the Red Sea. And there was a short way, and that was through a Canaanite stronghold, where God knew that the Israelites would face war and it was going to be too soon. The Lord actually took them the long way around through some desert area to get to the Red Sea. And the reason was that He knew that if the Israelites faced war so soon after coming out of Egypt, He was concerned that they might become afraid and return back to Egypt into slavery. So sometimes there might be a quick way to our goal, or to the Lord's goal, or to whatever it is that is our end zone for this particular period. But sometimes God will lead us around the long way because He's more invested in the journey and our heart condition and protecting us. So it is wise to trust Him in His processes, even if it doesn't make any sense to us. Point number 3, we need to keep our focus on the sign maker and the door opener and closer, not the signs and not the doors. We need to be careful to worship God and not the signs. So I've got an example for that, but it kind of wraps up in point 4. So point 4 is that it is actually biblical that God sends us signs and opens doors for us. So for example, God put a star in the east for the wise men to follow. Although they went through Herod territory and they were stupid and said some stuff they shouldn't have said, God protected them and their lives, and He guided them in a roundabout way to get back home safely as well. So signs and open doors are a biblical thing. But I want to add a but there. It is foolish and arrogant of us to think that we automatically have the skill set to navigate what we think is the information leading us toward an open, closed door or closed door. We need to be rehearsing ourselves in God's presence and His voice and His guidance through Scripture if we're really going to understand signs and doors properly. And a good example of this is Elisha. When Elijah was being taken up to heaven, he was being taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, and Elisha's instruction was, if you want the double portion that you've asked for, you must keep your eyes fixed on your father. Don't get distracted. And God, being God, sent a massive distraction. He sent a fiery chariot and fiery horses, which actually had nothing to do with the taking up of Elijah. Elijah went up in a whirlwind. So now Elisha has a whirlwind, fiery chariots, fiery horses, signs everywhere, like supernatural marvels, like crazy stuff. I think if I saw that, I would probably fall down dead. But he kept his eyes on the Father. He kept his focus. So that was point 3. Keep your focus on the Lord, not on the signs. And he relied on the Lord to navigate his path, not the signs, not the doors. We need to be like Elisha, plain and simple. With all of that in mind and the first story added, I want to leave us with a verse. And if you heard the first story, you'll know how the trust part relates. And that's this: trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge or submit to him, and he will make your path straight. So that's Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. So trust in the Lord. Trust him and him alone. If he wants to use signs, let him use signs, but inquire of him first. Lord, are you speaking to me? Is that really you? Can you give me a scripture to back that up? Can you speak into my heart directly and help me to learn your voice? Lord, is that a closed door? Am I supposed to push it open? Lord, is that an open door? Am I supposed to go through it? Am I supposed to ignore it? We're supposed to trust him and his ways and lean on his understanding, not our own. I think all too often we really do see a line of coincidence and we make up our own mind. And my friends, that is us leaning on our own understanding. Let's not get caught up in that mistake. Let's lean on God's understanding. His ways are well beyond ours, and it is worth our time and effort to take the journey of learning how he guides us. And it's okay to make mistakes. He'll help us clean them up. Well, thanks for your time. Great to see you again. Hope to see you next time. See you later.